And people just assume, oh yeah, you have a business, you're doing well, man. Everybody's rich and this and that. I'm like, it does not work like that. It is grind. It is a hustle. I still to this day have not taken a dollar from that coffee business. It's all been back, going back. I said, my goal is to keep on growing more and expanding. And that's when my day will come. But I'm just happy to be able to give employment opportunities to everyone.
Welcome, everybody, to the Going Beyond the Deal podcast. Today's a conversation. It's one that I've been looking forward to having since a couple weeks back when I had the opportunity to have my friend Eric LeGrand on stage at the ACG Corporate Growth Awards. Our guest today is the man, the myth, the legend, the great Eric LeGrand. A lot of people know Eric as number 52 from Rutgers University. They know the story of his life-changing injury that he suffered on the football field. They know about the moment that changed everything. But today, I don't want this conversation to be only about that moment, because Eric's story is bigger than what happened to him. It's about what he chose to do after the fact. It's about resilience. It's about belief. It's about purpose. It's about building something meaningful when life does not go according to plan. Eric is now a speaker, entrepreneur, philanthropist, founder of the LeGrand Coffee House, and co-founder of Eric LeGrand Bourbon. He has taken his platform and used it to build brands that bring people together, inspire people, and remind us all of what it looks like to keep moving forward. We recently had the honor of giving Eric our Lifetime Achievement Award at the ACG Corporate Growth Awards. And what stood out to me most was not just his story. It was his energy, his mindset, his humility, and his ability to make everyone around him feel stronger just by the way that he shows up. So today we're going to talk about that journey. What we're going to talk about is a mindset it takes to stay resilient. We're going to talk about the challenges that people don't always see. We're going to talk about how he got into bourbon. And we're going to talk about how he built LeGrand Coffee House and what he's building next. Most importantly, we're going to talk about belief, because when I look at Eric's journey, that's the word that keeps coming back to me. To believe in yourself, to believe in the people around you, and believe that when life changes, your purpose can still grow. Eric, thanks for being here. I'm honored to have you on the show.
Nice introduction right there, Michael. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, my friend. Listen, it was such a pleasure to be with you and spend time with you when we were getting together, for the Corporate Growth Awards. Everyone at that conference was just so moved by your story. But what I was excited about was, I think that what I took away was the most exciting thing for me was to have you in a room with all these business owners and stuff. And after the fact, you're like, Michael, I met this guy and I connected with this other guy. So I got to see you kind of get excited about on the business side. And that was like my biggest takeaway from the whole event.
Yeah, it was a lot of business owners in there and, companies that I've heard of in the past, but, never really associated with them, and making those connections with Jeremy from Jetty, and now setting up a meeting with the Tide Table Group down in LBI, trying to get the bourbon in there. And that's kind of what these events are for, networking and then seeing, who's in the room or how we can work together. And that's exactly what happened that night.
Yeah. That was awesome, man. We raised a bunch of money for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. But, the thing that I was most excited about is I know that you get out there and you speak a lot about your injury. And the one thing that I told you, that I wanted to make the night about and what I wanted to make this podcast about was, not to focus on that. I mean, we have to acknowledge it, right? But I want to talk about the crazy, you're such a businessman now.
Wow.
And what it's funny, we were talking about with the bourbon and you're like, yep, I'm the guy I'm dialing for dollars every day on the bourbon. And it's like, when I see you, I look at you like this celebrity. When I first met you, I was like, he probably has somebody calling for him. And it's like, nope, that's me. That's me every single day. And I got to tell you, I already had a ton of respect for you, but even more so after the fact that I got to experience that and hear about that.
Yeah, you see this phone that's hooked up right next to my face. That is me making the moves every single day, calling people.
I love it.
Sending messages, sending out my emails. It's me. We have a 2-man show on the whiskey team, which we're looking to expand this fall, get a sales rep going. But we've been grinding away. Brian handles all the back end stuff that we need to do with this stuff that I have no idea about when it comes to all the legalities with the bourbon. But I'm the face of the brand, so I'm the one who's making the call, talking about our bourbon and trying to get onto cocktail menus, get into liquor stores, setting up our appearances, all that stuff. That's me.
I love it. I love it. So before we get into it, I wanted to get a, because I never got to really hear about this. Who was Eric LeGrand growing up? You're a New Jersey guy, you're a Woodbridge native. Who was Eric LeGrand growing up? I met your mom. She's still very proud. You're like, I know you got a good relationship with your mom, so I know you're a family man, but tell me a little bit about Eric LeGrand growing up.
I come from the last generation of kids that were outside playing every single day. You go out in the morning, you come back when the street lights come on. I grew up in a very diverse area, Woodbridge, New Jersey, and depending on what season it was, that's the sport that we played in the park. If it was football season, we played football. Baseball season, baseball. Basketball season, we were playing basketball. And we were just always out and about, playing, whether if we were, I guess we started when I was like 9 years old, leaving the block, leaving my block and being able to venture off to the other streets. And you get kids that were, between the ages of 9 and 15. And we got together every single day and we competed. We challenged each other, and there was always an age difference, but that didn't hold us back. We still all went up against each other. And I think that brought that competitive nature to myself. And then as I started to play organized sports as well, and then getting bigger, stronger, and faster, but that element of competing day in and day out. And we never looked at the age group as a excuse. It was just a challenge to overcome.
When did you realize that you had the love for football? Like, when did you start really playing at that competitive level?
Actually, I started playing at 5 years old, flag football, because before I left the block, I did have 3 friends that were on the same block as me, Dougie, Joey, and Charlie. And Charlie was 5 years older than Dougie and Joey. We were the same age. And we played kill the man with the ball on the side of my house all the time. And at that young age of 5 years old, I used to juke out Charlie, who was 5 years older than me, and get to the other side and touch that fence. And I was like, wow, what an adrenaline rush that was. And Dougie had signed up for the Port Reigning Saints to play. So my mom was like, I'm going to sign him up too. And I started playing organized football at 5 years old.
And then you played all through high school. And then, what made you decide that you wanted to do Rutgers University?
Well, Rutgers offered me as a freshman in high school, which is pretty much unheard of. Me and Nosha Moreno were the only freshmen I ever received an offer from Coach Ciano at the time. And it was a special moment. You couldn't give an official offer to your junior year, so it was literally written on a napkin. Like, Eric is going to receive an offer from Rutgers University as he enters his junior season. This and that, but that made me stop playing baseball and basketball as well. And I put all my focus towards football and becoming the best player I could be, the strongest player I could be, and just staying disciplined and working all hard in the off season. So when I get opportunities to play, it was my best.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So when you look back, at your time at Rutgers, what did wearing, the number 52 mean to you?
Yeah, so I picked number 52 because I was recruited to play linebacker, and my favorite linebacker was Ray Lewis because of his passion and his energy and, the way he loved the game so much that I wanted to emulate that, on the football field. So I picked number 52, and then the first day of summer workouts, I got moved down to defensive line, but I wasn't changing my number. I was still keeping it 52, even though I was playing on the defensive line, and I feel like always 52 is a pretty badass number.
It is. It is. Mm-hmm. It is. So, I mean, listen, like I said, I don't want to touch upon, we need to touch upon the past and, because I think the background really matters, because before the world saw, the injury, there's already a foundation that was being built. There was discipline. There was a team first mentality, the belief, the work ethic. And then, life changed, in a moment. And, I want to ask this very respectfully, and I don't want the whole conversation to be around, the injury itself, but it's obviously a part of your journey. When your life changed in that moment, what do you remember most about the days and weeks that followed?
Michael is a pivotal part of my story, my journey. You know how people had those moments that they remember, like 9/11. Now,
Yeah.
for the younger generation, it's COVID. Like those pivotal moments that people remember that, well, it's October 16, 2010, was that pivotal moment of my life where things turned, and at the drop of a dime, man. Those days in the beginning were rough, but I, was able to pick myself up because of all the support that I had and not giving up on myself. Even I had tubes coming out of me, laying in the hospital bed, literally having the mindset, Michael, just taking it day by day by day by day until things start to get better. You start to feel better and you start to overcome things that they said that you never would. And I gained confidence from there. And then just my sheer stubbornness, I guess, to not give up on myself, especially at 20 years old, and understanding other people's situation that were in similar situations as myself, and realizing, how fortunate I was. I think that's what pushed me through those first few days, weeks, and months.
Gotcha. I mean, so at what point would you say your mindset, shifted from, why did this happen to what am I going to do with this?
There was a moment I was laying in the hospital bed after I just got rushed to the hospital after leaving Kessler because I had 105.5-degree fever. And I finally had broken my fever. They were giving me that medicine that I needed to help my fever come down. I was laying in a hospital bed. And I saw a young girl, probably 16 or 17 years old, get rushed by my room. She had a cancerous tumor that was growing on her brain. I could overhear outside them talking about it. And I saw her parents go by, the grandparents and the kids. And this was at like 5:30 in the morning. It was very early in the morning. Come by, passing by my room, going to the waiting room. And an hour or so goes by, and I heard them in the hallway again, but they were louder than they were there. And they had passed through, and all those faces were crying, the tears coming down their eyes. And wow, that looks terrible. I wonder what happened. And then come to find out that the girl passed away on the operating table. And I was laying in my hospital bed like, whatever I need to do from here on out, I'm going to do, because God forbid my mom, my family, my friends, and my teammates would have to leave the hospital like that. It was very eye-opening to me at 20 years old.
Wow. I had no idea. That's really, it's very selfless for you. Most people that would be in that situation would be thinking about themselves, and for you to be thinking about your mother and your friends and your teammates, like that just says a lot about, who you are as a person. The one thing that you talked about, with me personally, or it might have been on stage, the one comparison that you made that I thought was very interesting was, the structure of being a top level collegiate athlete to your recovery. Can you get into that a little bit? Because I think that was such a great comparison.
When I was at Rutgers, I told the crowd, I believe, Michael, I thought the whole world revolved around Piscataway, New Jersey. There was nothing else going on around the world besides Rutgers football. That's how we were structured, and I guess, what is a quote unquote trained to believe, like what we were doing every day. And I was waking up, going to breakfast, having your academic advisor look over your entire schedule that was blocked off hour by hour. And you had to fill in a box at each hour what you were doing that day, whether if it was class, whether if it was study hall, whether if it was practice, if it was a weight room session, it was a tutoring session. From the time you woke up to the time you went to sleep, our day was structured. And we had to get that signed off on every day. So living that life of, so much structure and discipline on a daily basis, when my injury happened, it kind of shifted my, okay, I'm not going to, get my book checked by my academic advisor each day, but there's time, there's therapy from 9 to 11. Then you come back, you eat lunch, and you go back again from 1 to 3 o'clock. You work out, then you come back and you have time to relax. Then you go to bed and you wake up and do it again. I was kind of used to that already.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of why I said with people that weren't like up in my situation or just had a spinal cord injury that never lived that kind of structured life, I felt for them because they didn't know what that life was like. I kind of did already.
It's crazy. I mean, it's so interesting. And I mean, and now, to this day, you have, you definitely need to have that structured life because of, the challenges that you go through. I just, the word, besides belief, it's resilience. And, that's really what I want people to hear in this whole thing. Resilience isn't a polished word. It's a daily decision. It's getting through the next moment, the next hour, the next day. And what I respect most about you is that you turned resilience, into action. When people call you resilient, what does that word mean to you?
I guess I would say it goes back to a quote that Coach Shiano used to always say to us, and those trained behavior becomes instinct. When you train your mind to do something, you train your body to do something. After a while, it just becomes your natural instinct to do it. Playing football and playing for Coach Shiano, I was trained to be resilient, to push through adversity, never give up, show physical toughness, mental toughness, just that structured person, and then shift that over into your everyday life, because he used to always tell us that you're going to need these tools and this structure in your everyday life. And when you're 18 to 22 years old, you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. But then once you get out into the real world, you're like, wow, he actually knew what he was talking about. And now people see it as resilient for me. But for me, it's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how I'm supposed to handle this. I'm not supposed to mentally break down. I'm supposed to be able to push through this because I was built and trained for this for years upon years as an athlete before I even, the foundation was being laid before any of this ever happened.
That's what I was going to ask you though, is like, do you think that for most people, you're either born resilient or it's something that you have to work into?
I think you have to work it. You have to go through struggles and battles. Yes, people are born with different mentalities and some can handle more adversity than others. Yes, that is very true. But there still has to be some sort of callus that's built up to be able to deal with that all the time and be able to overcome that or be the person next to you. And people say that with athletes all the time, that all the things that athletes have to go through that people don't see or don't understand. It allows them to have an edge on just your regular person because of what they were training to do, as well as being, especially at a college, you're a student athlete, but you have to do both. You have to do obviously the student part, but also you have to be an athlete.
Got it. So, I mean, with being as resilient as you are, and after everything you've been through, these days, what does a bad day look like for you and how are you getting through it?
My bad days to me now are days that we don't have a good sales. Those are my bad days now where I'm like, damn, what happened this day? That last week was so much better. What changed this past week? I'm kind of in that mode now where you wake up and every day is about the business. Yes, I still do my physical therapy, keeping my body strong, and I'm doing all that. But now I have responsibilities. I have investors, I have employees, so my mind is always goes to that first. My business is in being structured and making sure things are going well and I'm growing and not letting those bad days add up too many days, because obviously not every day is going to be a great day, but how do you limit those bad days and add more good days instead? So that's kind of what a bad day now looks like for me compared to, when it's, getting pitying myself of my injury happening and this and that. I don't really pity myself for that.
Yeah. The thing is with you is I've just noticed, and when we talked and we got to spend some one-on-one time together, you were all, we were chopping it up about business. We were chopping it up about, okay, where do we want to scale this thing to? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like you found like your real passion in life, which, maybe if it wasn't for what you went through, it wouldn't have been this, it would have been a totally different conversation. But these days, do you ever get tired of being viewed as the inspirational guy? When you're just trying to live and feed your family and build those businesses?
I don't think I ever get tired of it because people know me from that day. Like I said, that pivotal moment, that October 16, 2010, a lot of people or either know me or just learned about me from that day. And I'm totally fine with that, especially now as you see what I have done after that. And
yeah, of course.
People draw their inspiration from me. They're like, wow, that happened to you, but damn, look what you're doing now type of thing. So I actually think it is pretty cool. So I don't think I ever get tired of that being looked at as the inspirational. In fact, I just keep on building upon it, keep on writing my story and adding to it so people could be like, wow, he did this, this, and this, and now it's going to be he did that, and that too. So that's kind of how I look at it and how I view it and how I see things. So, I don't think I ever get tired of that, of people looking to me as the inspiration, because there's more after that now.
Well, that's a good lead into my next question to you is, what would you say to someone listening who's going through something, really hard for them and can't see the other side yet?
I can't see the other side because I feel like people most of the time are afraid to be vulnerable and ask for help and let their guard down. At my guy, 20 years old, I had the most humbling experience where I went from being on top of the world playing Division I football to having a nursing staff literally have to bathe me and get me ready and bring me down to my most humbled abouts that you can think of as a person, a human being, and then have to overcome that. So people are sometimes afraid to be vulnerable because they build this bravado up that they have to be the strongest person all the time, mentally, physically, all this and that. When sometimes we need a humbling moment or a wall to break down where you're not afraid to ask for help. You're not afraid to be that person that's up there and doesn't have everything in order. Like as you mentioned in the ACG conference where I was up there speaking, I told you I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to coffee, but I hire people. I ask questions. I'll do the thing. I bring myself down to that level where I don't have to be arrogant. No, I'm learning, going through life just like everyone else. So when people are going through struggles, ask for help. Don't be afraid to lend a helping hand to somebody else. And then as you learn through the struggles, you learn how to handle adversity, handle this battle, and then you try not to repeat it again.
I love it. All this stuff is so powerful, my man. I mean, I think so many people are fighting battles that nobody, really sees. And your story reminds, people that you can still build, you can still lead, and you can still create with impact. And that brings me to the, the business side of your journey, which I really enjoy, chopping it up with, with you about is, let's talk about LeGrand Coffee House. How did, let's let the listeners know, how did the coffee business start?
During the pandemic, sitting at home, bored out of my mind, watching TV, and then starting listening to audiobooks and coming up with, I want to pivot my role of, I still to this day, I make my living off of motivational speaking. Still going around to different businesses, schools, corporations, and speaking. That's how I pay my bills and keep my lights. Well, when COVID came, that all shut down. And I was like, what am I going to do next? Thank God at the time I had, built up the, enough money at the time to be able to sustain myself until the next things started to open up again. But what was I going to do next? And we're starting a group message with a bunch of friends of Woodbridge could be coming up and coming downtown with new apartment buildings and businesses and whatnot. And I was like, maybe I should open up a coffee house, like joking around. But then downtown joking around about it. And like, if you do it, we'll be a part of it. We'll invest. This and that. And me being me, I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, I got to be the one to get it done. So I remember I went on Google, found a business advisor. I'm with Bellissimo Coffee Business Advisors out of Portland. We became now a good friend of mine, Matt Mileto, learned about the business, talked to the mayor, told him what I wanted to do. He was all up and happy about that and pumped up about it. So that's how the coffee house got started. I had a lot to learn, but I started with an online store and went through hell the first month of it with the roast that I was dealing with. And then from there, I had to move on to other ways and then get ready for our brick and mortar to be open the following year. So it was quite the process, but I never backed down from a challenge.
I think it's amazing and it's funny because you're not, you're a self-proclaimed, you were not a coffee guy, right? You were not a coffee guy. And that's what got me thinking, kind of because what I got to see when I've been to LeGrand Coffee House, we're very super excited. We're going to be in Monmouth County at the end of this month, near where I live here. Was the original vision, around coffee, or do you think it had to do with community as well?
Mixture of both. Definitely a way to bring people together. And I just thought, how do you bring people together? Well, you got to find something that they like. And that is coffee. So people enjoy their coffee. You said before that you would see, all these people posting about their coffee and their food and stuff on Instagram. And I was like, how cool would that be if I had my own place where people were doing the same exact thing? and build that community around it. And that's kind of where I thought about it and learned about it. And I knew people that really enjoyed coffee. And then I started to try, and I'm like, this stuff is damn good too. I can understand why people have been drinking this for hundreds upon hundreds of years now. So that's kind of where it all started, and we've been able to build that community. Are you always going to make everybody happy? Absolutely not, but we're doing our best that we can, and we're serving a great product. And when people come to my coffee shop, they just leave, 99% of the time with a smile on their face, and that's what I'm happy about.
I love it. I love it. So, and I know a little bit about this, but just for the listeners, I mean, you were making your living, doing motivational speaking, talking about your story. Then you go into the coffee business that you are now, expanding, from an online store to brick and mortar. What are some of the biggest lessons that you learned in business, early on?
Your numbers, trying to understand your numbers and what the goals that you have to hit for your cost of goods, your labor numbers, all the things that go into utilities and things of that nature. And they compared it to like what my two utilities at my house are compared to what they are at the coffee shop are two totally different things. So like those, understanding the numbers, getting the right financial advice, I think was huge, because in the beginning I was just, using word of mouth off of people that were like, yeah, you should try this person. And then finally settling down and understanding my numbers and somebody that can break it down for me to understand, and being able to work with this group now. And then hiring the right people to run my business, because I'm not there making lattes. I can't physically. I'm not making your cold brews or pouring your hot coffee in the morning. So having a staff that I could trust to do the job for me with a smiling face and let people enjoy when they come by. I think those are the two important things: understanding my numbers and my staff that's there on a daily basis making things happen.
Because you got to protect, your name is the one on the top of the door, right? So you have to protect that standard. What has been, harder about running a coffee business than most people wouldn't realize?
You're not selling a $50 to $60, $70 piece of steak. So you got to sell a lot of coffee in order to really make a profit. People are like, oh yeah, you guys got good margins in the coffee industry. And I'm like, yeah, that has changed a little bit, but also there's so much more that goes into it too. Like I got to continue to pay my staff each week, which everyone has to do. But like I said, I'm selling a $5, $6, $7 cup of coffee. So I have to move a lot of product in order to really make a profit margin of what you need to do. And people just assume, oh yeah, you have a business, you're doing well, man, everybody's rich and this and that. I'm like, it does not work like that, guys. It is a grind. It is a hustle. I still, to this day, have not taken a dollar from that coffee business. It's all been going back. Like I said, my goal is to keep on growing more and expanding, and that's when my day will come. But I'm just happy to be able to give employment opportunities to everyone around my town and community, and continue to expand and then grow, and then be able to, come in where I need to.
So you mentioned this before. It's funny, you never drank coffee growing up, and then you realized it was good. It's an acquired taste. My daughter asked me, my 6.5-year-old daughter asked me, like, do you think, she's like, I like the smell of coffee. I said, well, baby, I didn't drink coffee until I was like 18 years old. Yeah. But speaking of acquired tastes, I am a fan of bourbon, but in my early years, that was very much an acquired taste. Let's jump into LeGrand Bourbon. As someone who does partake in the bourbon, wow, it is a really amazing product. But how did you fall into this bourbon business? You weren't the bourbon guy before this all started. Like, how did this come together? How did the partnership with Brian occur?
Yeah, just Brian and I have been friends for over a decade now, and him and I mean, I'll never forget when he reached out to me on Twitter about making some t-shirts that said prove people wrong, that he wanted to raise some money for, and for my foundation, and came over to my house about 11 years ago. We shot a video together with the t-shirts, and we were just selling them to make money for the foundation. After that, developed a friendship. I knew he was working at that time with Jay-Z, and then as our friendship grew, I remember when he transitioned to working with Conor McGregor and this and that so much. Brian has his hands, really into the spirits industry. This is what he does. But we've always talked like on a friendly basis, and he always came to my events and supported me. We never talked on a business basis. But we always say, we got to do something together. We got to do something together besides the t-shirts. And then one day I just decided that I was going to want to get into the liquor business during the pandemic as well. This is after the coffee idea, but around the same time. And I said, I want to start my own spirits business. And at the time, obviously, everyone's seen all the headlines with these big money deals and this and that. Brian shut that down right away. He goes, don't look at all these big headlines and think it's that easy. It is work. It's a grind. And this and that. And right away to my head, I'm like, that's totally fine. But when you tell me it's work and it's grind, that doesn't scare me.
Of course not.
Like that, like I'm ready to go now that you tell me, like, this is what I'm about. And I think Brian knew that and sensed that as well. And we said that we were going to get my foundation involved with this as well. And it was something that we both enjoyed when we landed on the bourbon category. It fits my story. It takes time and patience to make, just like by recovery. And after a long, hard day of work, you come home for a glass of bourbon and enjoy that and see where the night takes you.
I love it. I love it. I think there's a great connection between, patience and bourbon. I love that connection. What have you learned about the spirits business that really, really surprised you?
Man, there's a lot, because I would always say the coffee side, I had the business advisor. I had to really work myself to understand it. This is what I'm getting schooled on by Brian and trying to understand it. And I'm just like, there's a lot of complexities. And one thing I've learned is you don't want to ever burn a bridge in the liquor business, because people jump from brands to this brand to becoming sales reps here, working for this distributor. So you never, ever want to burn a bridge, because that person that you might fight with one day could be the person that you need to sign off on something the next day if they're working for another company. But in this business, it's expensive. Very, very expensive, between the liquid, the glass, the labeling, the legalities. There's always an invoice that has to be paid for this business. And it's, you're building a brand where you're trying to get people to enjoy your product because of the story and the mission behind it, and being able to push people that way. And obviously it has great product in it. But it's like, people want to know, why should I drink your bourbon over the 1,000 other bourbons that there are? So that's, I think, one of the hardest part. But once I get to share my story and share the product with people, then people understand it. But it's getting them to that point first. Like, why should I buy your bourbon over that other bourbon I could get? So that's been a hard part about it. But like I said, once I do get that opportunity, I know I got you.
Yeah. And what I would say is, obviously people want to support you. The bottles are beautiful, really super cool looking bottle and everything, but it's damn good product. I mean, like, it's, what I always say, when it comes to a good bourbon, it's like, can you sip it neat? Not mixed up with all the stuff, right? Like, and yours, it's a nice, smooth, easy, drinkable bourbon. So I really enjoy it. I got to take a bottle home from the event. I had already purchased a couple, right? But it was nice to be able to fill the shelf up with another one. So
no, that's the thing too. When it came to getting the liquid, I'll never forget. We were rounding up our investors, trying to see who we can get to help us, grow this business in this dream that we had. And Brian's like, we don't have any product yet, but we got to be patient. I'm like, well, how are we going to sell investors if we can't even allow them to taste it? He's like, be patient. We're not just going to take anything just to grab, because you do that, then people will buy it and then they'll never come back again after supporting you. You want to make sure we have good quality product. And it took some months until we finally landed on some good partners out of Green River and started getting some good juice.
You got some really good juice, my man. You definitely do. So, we talked a little bit about this with, expanding LeGrand Coffee House from Woodbridge to Monmouth County, which us Monmouth County residents are very, very excited about. With, the bourbon, I know you had mentioned, do you have any new stuff coming up with the bourbon? Any new expressions, anything like that coming out with it? What is Eric excited about in the next, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, well, excited for a few things. Obviously, for this year, being able to looking for a sales guy for a fall that we're going to bring our boards, that I can have them going all over the place. Because that's one thing in this business. Like, I could do my outreach on social media, talk to people on our phone, but most of the time, I'm like, okay, come in and we'll try the product. Well, obviously, with my situation, I can't get in a car and just drive up to taste somebody. And Brian's, has 100 things going on too. So we can't be everywhere. So getting a salesperson, I'm pumped up about, because tell you what, Michael, all this outreach I'm doing, I'm like, hey, get your ass over there, get over there, get here, over there. Like, that's really going to obviously help the business and grow it. And, our goal one day to see who wants to bring us in, and maybe with, acquisition down the road. That's our goals. But also for the rest of this year, we will be coming out with some no expressions. We'll do a single barrel again this fall, which we're excited about. And then we got something cooking for the holidays that we're really going to do that people like. We dropped the cash strength last year. I think people are going to be excited for our second cash strength that we dropped at the end of the season for the holidays.
Nice. You better make sure you just save me a bottle. I'll come and pick them up.
Don't worry, you'll be able to get yours, Michael. I'll let you know.
Okay. Good. Because now I got your number, man. So anything new that comes out, you gotta make sure you hit me up with it.
We're looking for September and then probably November.
So most across all liquor stores, people can pick up the bourbon, correct?
Yeah, we're probably in about 500 locations between bars, restaurants, and liquor stores throughout the state.
Very cool. And then just to give everybody the locations, where can people visit LeGrand Coffee House? So right now, currently in Woodbridge. And then where's the next location?
We'll be in Middletown, Kings Common, right? We're in ShopRite. We're on Route 35 on the southbound side, right where ShopRite is. Nicholas Creamery, Rosie's Pizza, Broadway Chicken, Just Salad. And
man, I mean, that's like everything. Nicholas Creamery is the best ice cream. So I could just kind of one-stop shop for everything here.
You go get your shopping done at ShopRite, and then if you want to come over, grab a cup of coffee, either before or after you go shopping, and then you can go. If you want pizza, you got pizza. You want chicken, you got chicken. You want salad, you got salad. You want ice cream, you got ice cream. And now you got coffee too.
I love it. Now, and can you order the coffee online as well?
Yes, we do have our online store. We sell our 12-ounce bags, and that's where we have our 5 different roasts, whether it's a Guatemala, Sumatra, Brazil, Colombian, or Costa Rican roast.
Great. And now, where is the best place for people to follow along with you?
Social media, you can always find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or I should say X, TikTok. I'm on at Eric LeGrand 52, or you can go to my website, ericlegrand52.com, if you want to book me for a speaking engagement, all that stuff. So I'm pretty easy to find.
I love it. And what is the best way that the people listening can support you right now? I mean, I know you have a lot of things coming up. I mean, we have the golf outing coming up and the Walk to Believe. I want to just give you the chance to kind of promote some of these things.
Yeah. So Team LeGrand, the Christopher Dana Reed Foundation is my foundation, and our goal is to find a cure for paralysis. We launched in the fall of 2013. I'm proud to say we're closing in on raising $3 million since then. And it's all for spinal cord injury research, and it's to find a cure. But we have our golf outing coming out on July 13th at Metuchen Golf and Country Club, which is going to be a lot of fun. Almost sold out. So you got to get your foursome after this call. And then immediately. And then our 16th annual Walk to Believe, which will now be on September 25th for the Rutgers Howard game. It's on a Friday night. So it's going to be a nice, fun walk that we do down the boardwalk before the game, bunch of pregame festivities. It's our 60th annual one, and then the highest fundraisers come down on the field with me at halftime to be honored. It's just a overall fun day where we raise a lot of money for the foundation, and we're doing them now around, instead of a 5K like we used to do, around a Rutgers football game.
I love it. So I really appreciate, for everything that was so, inspiring, and it was great conversation. I have to ask you, a question that I ask all my guests. I call it my $1 million question. When you look back on your journey, personally and professionally, what is one moment that felt really small at the time, but ended up changing everything?
One moment that smelled small that changed everything. It's the $1 million answer would be, can I say my injury? Because I guess without this injury, I wouldn't be doing all these different things. And who knows what I would have been doing if I would have been in the NFL, set myself up for that. But we may not know each other today if it wasn't for my injury, Michael. So I can say, I don't know if it was a small thing, but it was definitely the thing that changed everything. And obviously being able to be healthy enough to do all of this and overcome a lot of adversity. So the injury changed everything.
Thank God. Thank God you're here with us, sir, because we are certainly appreciative of you. Eric, I just want to say thank you, not just for coming on the podcast, but, for the way that you live your life. As I mentioned before, ACG New Jersey, the Association for Corporate Growth, recently had the honor of recognizing you with the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Corporate Growth Awards. And after this conversation, I think everybody listening can understand why. You've taken something that would have stopped a lot of people, and instead of letting it define you, you've used it to build and to inspire and to bring people together and to really create something meaningful. So for everyone listening, please go support Eric. Visit LeGrand Coffee House. Try the coffee. Buy some Eric LeGrand Bourbon. Follow what he's building. This isn't just about supporting a band, the brand itself. It's about supporting a person who represents belief, resilience, and purpose at the highest level. And I have to put in my plug here. If you're listening to this, if you're a business owner or operator thinking about how these kinds of decisions in business, can impact you, whether it's growth, capital, or brand building or long-term strategy, that's exactly the kind of conversations that I have every day. So if you want to have a second perspective or just someone to think it through with, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation. And if you found this conversation valuable, which I know you did, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with someone in your network who would benefit from it. Eric, I appreciate having you on the show today. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. We'll look forward to keeping in touch, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Let's continue to build something meaningful together. Take care.